Okay, introductions and conclusions are a very important part of speech making. There's an old saying that the short and sweet version of public speaking is, first you're going to tell them what you want to tell them, then you're going to tell them, and then you're going to tell them what you told them. This sets us up for an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. When you have an introduction, there are certain things that the introduction is going to do for your speech. First, it's going to get the attention of your audience. If you don't have your audience's attention, then there's no reason for you to be speaking. Another thing it will do is convey listener relevance, establishes speaker credibility, and identifies the thesis of the speech. There's a thing known as the primacy-recency effect, which is the tendency to remember the first and last things that you are told in a series rather than the entire series. So, for example, if you're a parent and you tell your child to do 4 things, they probably will do the first item that you told them and the last item that you told them. It's very important when you're giving a speech to get people's attention. One way to do that is through a startling statement. Tell us something that surprises us, such as 9 out of 10 people in the world really don't like man's best friend, dogs. Or you can give us a story. People love stories. That's why we read books, watch TV, devour movies. Also, when we're telling a story, the speaker begins to relax and really relate to the audience. So it becomes a great way to start a speech. A joke. Jokes are fun. But jokes need to relate to the topic of the speech and not be offensive to any part of your audience. If you have any concerns about whether it would be appropriate, then it probably isn't. Check with me if necessary. A quotation is a good idea. Quotes from famous people are very popular and help add support to your thoughts and ideas. An action, this could be anything from starting off by running in place to bouncing a ball, or you want to make sure that it's something that works indoors. When you have an analogy, you are comparing the similarities of 2 ideas. For example, you could present Pokemon Go. It could be a metaphor for a successful life. And questions. Yes, everybody's fallback position. How many of you have thought about opening your speech with a question? A rhetorical question is asking a question that you really don't expect anyone to answer. When asked a direct question, you're expecting some type of answer from the audience, but you want to make sure that you don't turn your speech over to your audience and let them take control. It's good to ask them for a show of hands or to let them know how you want them to respond. And then a rhetorical question, of course, is a question you really don't expect an answer for. It's just a way to get your audience thinking in the direction of your speech, such as, have you ever considered how special life on this planet is, and then wondered why we don't treasure it more? These are all great ways to begin your speech. When you have your introduction, one of the functions will be to establish relevance. You want to create a listener relevance link so the listener says and thinks to himself, well, why am I interested in listening to this speech? How is it relevant to me? And when you do this, you are also motivating the audience to listen. The other thing you want to do is establish credibility. Why should your audience believe you? And that's done through a series of items called ethos, pathos, and logos, which we will study a little bit more when we get to the persuasive chapter. The speaker must establish their ethos or their credibility for the subject in the introduction, or the audience won't continue to listen. Aristotle asserted that listeners would be motivated to both listen and to believe a speaker based on their perception of the speaker's ethos, pathos, and logos. So, why are you speaking? Why should your audience believe you? And how are you credible? These are questions you want to ask yourself as you're preparing your speech. You want to select the best introduction. Compare different openings. Yes, I want you to create 2 or 3 different introductions. Try them out and see which one works best for you. You may have a really great idea, but it may not work with your personality, particularly when you get nervous in front of the audience. So try a couple of things out and see what works best for you. Remember to meet the 4 goals, and you should be long enough to encourage the listeners to listen, but not so long that you don't leave time for the rest of your speech. During your introduction, you want to tell your audience what the speech is about. And you're going to do that in your thesis statement, just like you would do in an essay. You want to state the main points of the speech. You may do this by number if you wish, or you can just state the main points. Try not to announce, today I'm going to talk about, because your audience knows that it's a speech. So don't announce your thesis of your speech. Remember, when you're speaking, the audience can't go back and reread what you just said without ignoring what you're currently saying. So you want your audience to be able to follow you through your speech. And that's where separating your speech into an introduction, body, and a conclusion can be very helpful. The conclusion. In your conclusion, you want to summarize the goal and the main points. You want to clinch their ideas and their attentions by using vivid imagery and sometimes appeals to action. Again, you want to select the best conclusion. Create 2 or 3, try them out, and see how they work. If your conclusion also connects with ideas that you had in your introduction, it can be very powerful. For a short speech, 1 to 3 sentences for a conclusion is fine. For longer speeches, your conclusion might be a little bit longer. A powerful speech is always going to have a strong introduction, good ideas in the body, and a strong conclusion.